And so when I realized, no matter how hard I worked with my last team with EXP, it was just going to be the same old coming to the office, doing my calls. I was making, keep in mind, like $1,200 on average per month of calls. And then I would go home. It was just the same thing every day. I'm like, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? Just make calls every day? Or do I want to really go out there and meet people?
Yeah.
People say, oh, I think Coldwell's better than Keller Williams. Oh, I think EXP is better than Real.
Yeah.
It's really the people you surround yourself with.
I love that you said that. What, more people should think like that. And unfortunately, they don't. They think that the grass is always greener somewhere else. If somebody knows you and they don't know that you sell real estate, that's your fault. It's not theirs.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even if you do meet somebody or you know somebody, you tell them you're in real estate, if you don't keep reminding them that you're in real estate, that's your fault. You're not gonna get that when it's time. So what would you say to somebody else who may be struggling, who's in real estate or some other business or sales, they're 100% commission, starting their own company, whatever it is, and they're just having a tough time? What would you say to help them to get through that period of time in their life?
In life, there's a blueprint for everything. There's no need to start over. Hear from industry leaders, those at the top of their fitness journey, and real estate gurus. They tell you exactly how they did it. All you have to do is listen, learn, and execute. This is The Blueprint with Brad Rice.
All right, guys, we're back to another edition of The Blueprint. Today, I've got a young entrepreneur with us in the real estate game. Tristan Guerrero comes to us from San Diego. He didn't always live there. He moved down there recently. And he's a real estate professional, and he recently he's a co-founder of West Coast Property Bros. He also is a host of a podcast called Straight to the Point. And he really aims to inspire the younger generations into getting into real estate, investing in real estate. He's in his early 20s, and he wants to see others do the same thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, how he got into real estate, what the challenges are, and what he sees as a lifelong career and how to be successful in this. So welcome, Tristan.
I appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah,
That's
man.
awesome.
It's funny. I had a dog named Tristan.
No way.
Yeah, and this was after. So God, this is so long ago. There was a Brad Pitt movie, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, where his character name was Tristan, and this was like in the mid '90s. Do you know the name of it?
Legends of the Fall? Was it
that? Might be it. Michael, maybe
that's
you can
the
look it
movie
up.
that my mom named me after.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So so we were having our first son, who was born in 1996.
Okay.
And she threw out that name, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to have you think about Brad Pitt every time you call my son. So that was nixed, and we went with Devin, but Tristan Ludlow, Legends of the Fall. There you go.
Yeah.
So you were named after him. So I said, look, I'll tell you what, you can name our dog that, and we wound up with
There we go.
dog.
That's
so, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Anyhow, there's not a lot of Tristans out there, but so let's talk a little bit. We were talking off camera here just when you came in, and about you're 23. You've started in real estate, and I want to kind of, for the audience, give them an idea of what you go through as a young entrepreneur deciding to get into something where you're self-employed, right? Because real estate agents are self-employed. A lot of people don't understand that. You're not getting a salary. You don't get paid hourly. You eat off of what you kill. You work, and until a transaction closes, you don't get paid. And so a lot of people don't realize that. So you're really getting into a business where you're self-employed. But let's take the clock back just a little bit into school, and then how you transitioned into getting into real estate or wanting to.
Totally. Yeah, it kind of started back, I'm going to take it back even to high school, senior year, where I found out about the school I went to, Menlo College. I had no clue who they were, where they were.
That's in the Bay Area.
Yeah, this is in Palo Alto.
Yep.
People don't know where it is.
Right in the heat of Silicon Valley there.
Exactly.
Yep.
And come to it, a lot of professionals actually know about the school after going there. I'm like, how do you guys know about this tiny school in the Bay Area? And I actually first joined Menlo because I'm a student athlete. I went there for cross country and track, but I didn't know what I wanted to study. So I just went in communications, sports management, kind of undeclared. But once I started going to the school, I figured out they had a real estate major with business management. So I decided, you know what? Let me give that a chance because, I watched Ryan Serhant back in the day.
Okay.
$1 million listing in LA. So I'm like,
yeah, these real estate
right
influencers.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I took the first class, the intro class, and I'm like, I'm going to pursue it as a major. And after that led to diving into more classes.
So let's see, you took principles, right? Of real estate? Was that one of them?
Yeah, that's one of them.
And then you had like real estate appraisals, and I'm trying to remember because I actually, this is way back when in the 80s, but I also had real estate as a major, and
nice.
and you had to take, there was appraisal, there was an econ class, there was principles. I don't even remember the others. There probably was about 6 or 7 classes, right, in the real estate.
Yeah, and the way our school had it set up was you had your general ed, you had your core business classes because it was a business-focused school.
Right.
And then you have your core classes specific to real estate. And I believe there was about 6 to 8.
It was somewhere around there.
Because 2 of the classes you had to take in a different business category and focus.
Okay.
So that you could kind of relate that back to your own major.
Got it.
So it was about roughly 6 to 8 classes I took, whether it was law, principles,
that's right.
practice,
one of them, business
intro.
law.
Yeah.
Yep.
But along that I appreciate my school for doing is between your junior, senior year, summer, you have to take an internship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it was really, you were kind of interviewing for a job, right?
Yep.
In college so that you could secure this internship in the summer.
That's good.
And keep in mind, this is back when it was 2020, 2021, when it was difficult to even get one. I was just applying to anything because everyone was turning me down. They're like, we're not even looking for interns right now.
Right.
Like, what do I do?
We're working remote. We don't even have an office.
Right.
Whatever. Right.
And I landed with Shea Homes.
Okay.
I got an interview with them.
Yeah.
They're in Northern California. They're a home builder.
Yep.
And it was very focused on forward planning and development of communities and strategizing and planning them. So that was my internship experience. First dive into real estate was through them.
Yeah, that's got to give you some insightful information, though, to work for a home builder like that in the strategic planning phases. That's pretty good. I like that. I like the idea that they had an internship, and it kind of leads to where we've talked about this a lot of times on the show. The best place to learn when you want to get into an industry that you have an interest in is to volunteer your time and learn. So that's what an internship does.
Exactly.
So you did that. You gained some knowledge.
Yep.
Did that solidify the fact that you wanted to be in real estate?
It gave me a different perspective because I came into real estate knowing the real estate agent side. I didn't think outside the box where you're able to do home loans. You can be an appraiser. You can do all different sorts of positions.
Facets.
It's very generalized if you say, I do real estate.
Yep.
What in real estate do you do? And it gave me another avenue to think about, like, oh, okay, let me try this out and see how this works.
Sure.
So right after college, I got the job full time as a development assistant to really go head first, dive in.
What do you mean a development assistant? What is that?
So I went back to Shea and they gave me a development assistant role to basically learn how to do forward planning.
Okay. So back to the same thing you're doing as an intern, but now you got hired.
Full-time job. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I don't know. This time around, it wasn't the same as being an intern because now you're a full employee of the company.
Yeah.
And I had no clue what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
And I felt like the environment changed from when I was an intern than being hired as a full-time employee. And something just didn't seem right. It fell off for me. So I did that for about a year. And by the time the market started slowing down, they weren't building as much. I was I was the low-hanging fruit. So they cut me.
Got it.
Laid me off. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to get my real estate license finally and jump in as an agent up in the Bay Area.
Now, because you took real estate as a major, you didn't have to do any other qualifying courses to get your license, right?
Well, at the time, Menlo was still certifying the classes. So even though I was taking the classes at the school, it was parallel with an online class through Allied.
Right.
That they partnered with. So that, to make sure that the classes counted, your 3 classes counted, so that you could be eligible to complete the application, take the test.
Right. So you had to take the test, but you'd already done the coursework in school.
Exactly.
So that's the benefit of taking that. If you're going to college and you want to be in real estate and they've got that as an option, not every college does.
Yeah.
The benefit is you've taken the classes that you would otherwise have to take in order to qualify to take your real estate exam. So you already had those classes. Back when I did it, it was a little bit imperfect because I never got my real estate sales license. You have your sales license, right? Because you mentioned that you don't have your broker's license. I was 1 class shy of getting my broker's license when I graduated. And one of the prerequisites of having your broker's license can be a 4-year degree. And so the 4-year degree counts, but of all the classes that you're required to have as a broker, when I graduated, I was shy 1. And so I had to take that as a correspondent course. And I just got my broker's license. I never had a real estate sales license because I'm like, well, why would I bother with that? So just so people know, the difference is when you're a real estate salesperson, this is just in California, by the way. Other states manage it differently. But under the California DRE, if you're a real estate salesperson, you have to work for a broker, a responsible broker. So you have to hang your license under a broker. And you can only do that with 1 real estate brokerage. Now, there's a caveat to that that I'll get into in just a second, but the broker then can have a company, can have multiple companies, and is responsible for everything that goes on in those companies, including the real estate salespeople that have their licenses there. So that's the major difference, is the owning of a company versus not, or being able to associate with multiple companies versus only 1. The caveat I wanted to get back to is, if you get your MLO endorsement, which is your mortgage loan originator endorsement, you can be dual licensed, which means you can hang your license under a real estate firm to do real estate, to buy and, to sell real estate, right, with buyers and sellers. But you can hang your license also under a mortgage company with your MLO endorsement, and you can have both. Did you know that?
I did, actually. Okay. I found that out through my current mentor now.
There you go.
And I already took all the classes. All I have to do is just pass the MLO test.
There you go.
I failed just a month ago, so it was kind of tough. Not gonna lie,
it isn't easy. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more difficult than it is to get your real estate sales license.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure. The thing to be really careful of once you do get it, because you'll get it, is to definitely disclose that you're dual licensed. You want to disclose it on the real estate side. You want to disclose it on the mortgage side. And fortunately, we had done the right disclosure, but people get a little crazy on things and they think that you're making double the money, which you are as the person who's doing both jobs, but they think the company's making double the money. And so, we've had issues with that, with dual licensing. So, but yeah, that's good. So so what is your purpose then of getting your MLO endorsement? What do you want to do with that?
Eventually, I see West Coast Property Pros as being that one-stop shop.
Okay.
With me and my business partner, Isaac, that started it, we were both we already have our real estate license. He has his MLO license already. I just need to retake it and then get our notary public license.
Okay.
And the idea is really to promote us as, hey, I'm doing the real estate side, he's doing the loan side.
Okay.
So then we can kind of separate ourselves. He can focus on that. I can focus on real estate.
Sure.
And really ultimately keep a clean, seamless process versus having all these different steps in between, like having to reach out to the MLO officer and like, hey, what's going on here? Okay, now I got to go back to
do it all in-house.
Exactly. Keep it in-house. Keep it clean. It's easy. And I think that goes back to why our mentor even set up Authentic Partners as the broker, is to keep it all in-house.
Okay, so when you say your mentor, so this is a person who's currently your broker of record, right?
Technically,
your license
not.
With?
I'm licensed under Authentic Partners, which is brokered by John.
There's a different person that's the broker.
Yeah, totally different.
But he's a broker associate there, so he's got
he's
got his broker's license also. Look, there's a lot to that if you're working very intimately with your clients, and you want to do both the real estate and the loan, there's a lot of agents that do that. There's a lot.
Yeah.
When you want to build that at scale, I don't personally know any companies that really have done that at scale, where they're doing both the real estate and the mortgage, and typically they'll separate it off. Perfect example of that is Rocket. Like, everybody knows Rocket Mortgage. Very few people know about Rocket Homes, although Rocket Homes is a big company, totally separate.
Right.
Do they try to refer back and forth? Yeah, there's a bit of that, and it happens internally. But the reality is, one channel remains in one channel, and the other one remains in the other.
Totally.
And so there's a certain identity to that. And from a consumer point of view, they want, at least for now, they want to know that they're working with a professional in one and a professional in the other. When sometimes they're working with an individual real estate agent who says, "I can also do your loan." The people that typically are trusting them to do that, they have a personal relationship, they're a friend, their family, that type of thing. But it's very difficult to break through the consumer for that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I feel like to your point, you should have narrow down to one thing. And we've been told this a lot going through the industry. We actually came back from Michigan and visited UWM. They're the biggest mortgage company right before Rocket.
Yep.
That's their competitor. And meeting people there was pretty cool because I don't really know the loan business, but talking to some people there kind of influenced me like, wow, like this is a whole different world, whole different beast. I don't know if I'm ready for it, but I know come due time, I'm going to be able to figure out the parts and pieces to put together. And
it's an impressive operation out there. No doubt. You know, it's giant. You get the grand tour. And you get to kind of see behind the scenes what they do as a big mortgage company. Well, cool. So you ended up talk to me about, look. So you're 23. You were working for Shea. Actually, you're before you turned 23. I imagine.
Yeah.
Right.
I was 20 when I worked.
You were
for them.
20.
Yeah.
You made it through COVID, and then what brought you to moving to the San Diego County area?
Yeah. So after my time with Shea, I decided to get my real estate license, which I did. I started with Keller Williams. I think I should have taken more time to really look into which broker to really hang my license with, because after some time doing it, I was still living at home. I was trying to start my business as an agent, but I was also working at a running shoe store. And this takes me back to when I started in college.
Yeah.
I was working at a Fleet Feet in Menlo Park, and then I'd come home and work at a mom and pop shop. It's called Ford Motion Sports.
Okay.
Honestly, that's what influenced me to get into being an agent, is for working at those running shoe stores, because it's very close, it's intimate, you're helping people.
Sure.
Along with being a sales
doing
rep.
Sales. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I had some relationship to it because I was a big runner, and at first getting into it, I thought, I'm just in it to, get the running shoes, because I was doing cross country and track.
The discount on running shoes?
Exactly, for working at the store. But then as soon as I started doing the job more, it became a little bit more meaningful for me. There was one experience where I had a client come in. He was in a wheelchair, oxygen mask, he had a helper. And I took my time when I realized that. And by the end of it, maybe it took an hour and a half to fit him in the shoes.
So he was getting running shoes.
Yeah, and we advertise us not just as a running shoe store. We can help people to help find them walking shoes.
Gotcha.
Trail shoes, hiking shoes, lifting shoes, you name it.
Just properly fit shoes.
Exactly.
Got it.
And he came in just looking for a great pair of running shoes that fit him and would remove any pain from his feet.
Gotcha.
Which he was currently dealing with coming in to the store. So took a good 90 minutes. I think we put on 15 pairs of shoes. And by the end of it, he was super grateful. He's like, oh my God. He shook my hand. He's like, thank you for helping me. And I don't feel any pain in my feet anymore. And 2 days later, he actually came back. And he said, oh, where's your boss? I'm like, okay, I'll go get him. Yeah. So I brought him out. He's like, I just want to tell you, this gentleman right here is so great. He helped me.
Nice.
Yeah. And ever since that day, it just hit me a different way to help people change their lives versus just selling them.
I like that.
A shoe.
That's good. That's good motivation.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So you worked at the shoe store for some time?
I'd say about 3-4 years. Yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
How often do you come across somebody who has just really smelly feet? Are you a tech investor looking to shape the future of real estate? HomePie is the #1 for sale by owner marketplace, and we are revolutionizing the way homes are bought and sold. I'd love to hear from you. Just email invest@homepie.com and let's chat. Now back to the show.
I would say every time.
Really?
Every time. Dealing with feet,
man.
yes, every time. Oh man,
Tell me a story of somebody who had the worst smelling feet.
I mean, outside of the smell, I think it's really just looking at feet, because I'm not really a big feet person, but I was in the business for looking at feet. I had to, and there's some interesting feet I've looked at for sure.
Hammer toes, like
literally the full 9 yards.
oh my gosh. And describe
man.
like the worst case.
Man, like I've seen someone's arch so flat that their ankle is touching the ground.
Oh,
And
man.
while their foot is super wide, like I need a 4E width for this person. So sometimes we don't even have that kind of width. So we have to come and order it off their website, whether it's Hoka or Nike or someone.
Wow.
Like, even
Is
makes
that from like somebody being really heavy, or is that just born that way?
I think it's genetics, but it could also be lifestyle too.
Wow.
How you treat your body is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Whatever you put in, whether it's working out, the food you eat, staying hydrated is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And that's why I always preach, like I am still running till this day. I'm still trying to keep my body healthy, even though it's kind of difficult juggling a business. And
Yeah, you don't want to let yourself go at the age of 23.
totally.
All right. So cool. You've got a lot of different feet you've looked at your ripe old age of 23. And you realize that's not the business you want to be in. You're not going to be a podiatrist by any means.
Well, maybe not a podiatrist, but I do envision myself owning one of those businesses down the line.
Okay.
It's in my 10-year plan.
Got it.
To eventually own one of those stores.
All right. So you were there. You're working at the shoe store. You were doing everything, and then the idea of moving.
That came across about, I would say even last summer. I have a friend that's currently living in Mission Valley down there near where Rich is at.
Yep.
And he went there for school after going to community college in the Bay. He moved down there and he said, I'm never moving back. Tristan, you got to come down here. And from that time, which was about 5 years ago now, he was trying to get me down here like, Tristan, you got to move here. You got to move here. I'm like, dude, I wish, but what's bringing me down here other than, the weather and the beach, which is a good reason,
Yeah.
I told him I'm not moving down here until I find something, because the San Diego job market it's hard to find something even out of college. And I finally took the time after going out of the country with my family to Greece. I did a boys trip with him. And when I came back, I really sat down and realized I don't want to live at home my whole life. I don't want to keep working at the running shoe store. And I also am not really doing anything with this real estate business that I started by myself. It's a little bit more than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
So I actually took a few weeks. I tell people it took me a couple days, maybe a week, but it took me a few weeks to really think about, why do I want to move here? And it was a lot of time to myself, journaling, walking around the park, eating with myself at some cafe, and I made a good 10 pages of notes for myself, like why I want to move here.
Sure.
And then after kind of praying about it, reading through my notes and visualizing my vision I started looking through Indeed. Mm-hmm. And I found out this team down in San Marcos. I'm like, that's an interesting name.
A real estate team.
Yeah, that's a part of EXP. So I applied. I interviewed with one of them. I thought it went really well. So I told him, like, look, he wanted to pair me with someone in the Bay Area. I told him, no, I'm moving down here to your team. And he's like, oh, okay. So here's the next steps. So I interviewed 2 more times, and I finally solidified it and said, all right, I'm going to go visit this place to make sure this is what I want to call home. So I had some good employees I worked with. They covered my shift for a week. I drove down south from the Bay by myself, couch surfed to get a good feeling for the area, visited the office, and I came back and I said, I think this is it. I'm doing it. And a month from that time, which was beginning of September, I said I'm going to move down here by October 20th. And I did.
Okay. So you, when you were at Keller Williams, which is where you started in real estate, had you closed a transaction?
I did not, no.
Okay, no transactions. So then you're moving to this team with EXP. And
Yes.
you said you had reflected on and said you made a hasty decision going to Keller Williams. You should have done some more research. So compare and contrast Keller Williams to EXP for me.
I'd say if you're considering joining the AmeriFund team, it's a really good idea.
We as processors at AmeriFund Home Loans support the loan officers in every aspect of the loan once it comes into processing because we want them out there marketing themselves and originating more loans and supporting more borrowers.
Competitive commission plans are a given, and powerful technology is expected, but what truly sets us apart is our culture. We've built a solid support system for our loan officers.
If you're interested in joining the AmeriFund team, go to amerifund.com/careers.
They're two very different firms. I mean, Keller Williams has been around for years, and it seems very corporate, very old school. And also, I also want to mention I was starting off solo versus joining a team.
Yeah.
And I say there's a very big difference between do you want to go solo or do you want to join a team?
Sure.
I think, honestly, with me going solo, it made me realize, oh, man, this is a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Some people just join in as an agent thinking they're going to make millions off commission checks left and right based off the shows they watch.
Yeah.
They're fantasizing in their head.
Yeah.
And after doing that for a few months, I'm like, man, I don't think this is it, doing
Sure.
it solo. I need to collaborate, bring minds together so I'm able to have some sort of foundation because I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, which
And
is
no
a
one
great
teaches
idea.
me.
To work on a team when you start out in real estate makes a lot of sense. I'm just curious because both of those models are similar in that they've got uplines and you get overrides and it's based on recruiting and that sort of thing. So when you look at the program that Keller Williams has versus what EXP offers, what do you see as the biggest difference?
Systems. That's
Just
it.
the systems they use?
Yeah, one's more online versus the other, and one operates slightly different than the other. But I would say they're pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
Century 21, Compass, EXP, Keller, they're all real estate brokerages. And if you're a solo agent, you're doing the exact same thing no matter where you go.
Right.
So at that point, it was up to me to figure out what was the right environment for myself.
But if you are building a team or even helping people or recruiting people to get into the real estate business, there are a handful of companies. Real would be another one, I think. And I forget the name of the new company that's really growing bigger than or faster than anybody else right now. But there's 4 or 5, larger companies where you can build a downline and you get an override of people that you help recruit into the business. Some of these others like Compass or Century 21 or Coldwell Banker or any of those, they don't really have that. They're really more the traditional model.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd say that's a cool incentive. I mean, EXP, they have stock options.
Yeah.
With every deal you close, you have a separate account that goes towards their stock, yada, yada. I think it's just really just incentives to get people to join their brokerage. But ultimately, I see them as the same.
Okay.
In my eyes.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think it really comes down to the people you work with. It doesn't matter where you go because people say, oh, I think Coldwell's better than Keller Williams. Oh, I think EXP is better than Real.
Yeah.
It's really the people you surround yourself with.
I love that you said that. What, more people should think like that. And unfortunately, they don't. They think that the grass is always greener somewhere else. When we talk about the compensation, because you've now been at 2 different places, you're now at your 3rd, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're all very similar. It's just a matter of how they package it.
Exactly.
And some package it and make it look more appealing from a marketing or advertising standpoint than others. But at the end of the day, you wind up with just about the same as the bottom dollar that you get. And so it really is about the people that you surround yourself with and how they're helping you to grow, right?
Yeah.
And so you were with this team for a little while, and and you recently decided that you weren't growing the way you wanted to grow there.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, they're a great group of people. They have great heart, warm hearts, and they have a good system in place. Now, when it came down to putting my heart and soul into it, I didn't see results. And that's just what it came down to. And with my new mentor, he does have a lot of leads that he has, but he's not just going to willy-nilly give it out.
Okay.
And so when I realized, no matter how hard I worked with my last team with EXP, it was just going to be the same old coming to the office, doing my calls. I was making, keep in mind, like 1,200 on average per month of calls. And then I would go home. It was just the same thing every day. I'm like, do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? Just make calls every day? Or do I want to really go out there and meet people?
Yeah. And you know what? I think a lot of people, especially in your early 20s when you want to start on a career and you've seen these influencers get, be really successful at it, you start something like that and you don't realize that it really is a grind. And so I would imagine, talk a minute about how, the ups and downs of that, like how you felt emotionally, what you might have been questioning about your choices, about moving, about choosing real estate. Like really, talk to somebody who might be experiencing the same thing as you, because you've broken through that on the other side right now, but you probably had some tough days.
Yeah. I mean, even going back to me being in the Bay Area, it was hard starting off as a solo agent because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I had to honestly ask other agents that I networked with, like, what are you doing? Because honestly, I think I'm being thrown it left and right, and I don't know what system to really use. So I decided, let me try being a part of a team, because they already have a system in place. I'm just kind of hopping in for the ride and testing how that goes. And I I tested it out, didn't work out for me, and I decided, what, I've kind of seen the system from a team perspective. I started off as a solo agent, and now kind of combining the both, I'm starting my own thing, which a lot of people, it's hard for them to start their own thing.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where to start. But after kind of being a part of a team and seeing how they operate, I'm kind of picking and choosing what worked for me, what didn't, and now implementing it into our business.
Right.
With West Coast.
But that the whole process of going about that and making that decision, because I know you mentioned you have a partner, and you guys were both on the team together, and so you had this person, you guys could run ideas by each other and motivate each other and that sort of thing. And I think you said he was like your motivation buddy or something like that, right? So that's important. But I think everybody goes through this. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how much how long you've been in a business, or businesses have ups and downs. How do you get through those times where you may be looking at what you're doing, you're putting in all this work, you're working 12 hours a day, making phone calls, and you don't have anything to show for it? Like, how do you get through that?
I did everything I could. Honestly, I had to run in the morning. That was one thing I had to do. I do yoga after every run, and just setting the mind and tone for the day is just sweating it out in the morning, keeping a positive mindset coming into the office. I had a vision board for myself that I would look at every time. I even posted it up for myself to see while I was making the dials. And going into it, I had to pump myself up.
Yeah.
No matter how hard the call was and how many rejections you'd get over and over.
Yeah.
And there was also some strategy getting into it. So a little bit of everything. I started to kind of play and toy with, like, what worked, what didn't. And then I found my groove for a little bit.
Okay. So what would you say to somebody else who may be struggling, who's in real estate or some other business or sales, they're 100% commission, starting their own company, whatever it is, and they're just having a tough time? What would you say to help them to get through that period of time in their life?
My advice for someone selling their home: number 1, do it yourself and save. Number 2, use HomePie.
HomePie makes it easy to buy or sell without an agent. I can list a home in minutes and start receiving offers right away from buyers.
When we discovered that we didn't have to lose $40,000 in agent commission just to upsize to a larger home, it was an obvious choice.
List your home for free at homepie.com. Keep your piece of the pie.
Yeah, I would say for the people wanting to get into real estate, just know of the risk that you're taking, that it's 100% commission job. You have to have a business plan in place. You have to have the vision, and just know there's going to be so much rejection coming your way, and just expect that. Because coming into it at first, I had to be told that myself, that there's going to be 99% rejection.
Yeah.
And there's going to be that 1% that are going to be willing to talk to you on the phone past 2 minutes, which was considered a conversation at my old group. But just expect that there's going to be a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
And for someone that's currently in the midst of it, kind of like where I'm at, maybe try it for 6 months, see if it works, see if your idea and plan does work. And if you don't see any success out of it, maybe look into pivoting and trying something different.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's like there's, do you know who Tom Hopkins is?
Fairly familiar.
So he was a real estate influencer before it was called that, but public speaker in real estate for many, many years, you know, kind of like a Tom Ferry, Mike Ferry, those guys. But back in the day, and he had this thing where, you know, he said, calculate how much you make on a transaction. And let's say that that's $5,000. Okay. And how many people does it take to talk to actually get to the one where you can close and get paid that $5,000? And so let's say it was 100 people that you had to talk to. So every rejection, to get to that 100 person, you would say, thanks for the 50. Because everybody you talked to that rejected got you that much closer to the $5,000 person that said yes.
Right.
Right? And so it's just one way to look at it. But yeah, rejection's part of it. In any sales job it is. And not a lot of people can get through that. So the running, getting your endorphins going, you know, the yoga, the talking to yourself, the vision board, those are all techniques that you used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like what you said, it is also a numbers game too. Like what you said, like maybe out of every 10 calls you do, you have one meaningful conversation, and that adds up over time. Maybe that doesn't lead to an appointment, or maybe it does. They're like, oh, you know what, Tristan, I'm ready right now to sell or buy.
Yep.
And just keep track of.
You have to keep track of those metrics. Yeah. That's right. So now you've you've migrated from EXP. You've started your own company. And so what does your future look like? Like what are your plans now?
Yeah. Actually, before I got here, I met up with my business partner. He had just came back from Atlanta. There was a big show going on with EPM.
Okay.
They're a mortgage.
Yep.
They're in the wholesale
You
industry.
went to TAG.
Exactly. Yeah, he went to
Georgia.
TAG. Exactly.
Okay.
And just kind of getting his takeaway from the event. What did he get out of it?
What was his takeaway?
He met with a lot of great minds. I mean, nothing where he's learning anything about mortgages. It was more of the networking experience and aspect, because he got to meet with Braden Shaw.
Yep.
Got to interview with him.
Yep. Got
to meet with Pablo, one of the bigger loan officers out there. Yep. Kevin Hart, like T-Pain, like stuff like that. But just to kind of get their perspective of like, hey, look, just like the questions you're asking me, like what advice would you give to someone starting off in the loan industry?
Yep.
It's really hard to start off, but like what direction, and if you were in my position, what would be the first step you would take, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, that's a pretty easy question for me to answer. And by the way, Braden, I know Braden very well. In fact, he does his He does his California business through us. So,
oh, nice.
So look, I think it's pretty easy. If you want to get into sales, I don't care if it's mortgage, if it's real estate, anything that you can do that appeals to a broad variety of people. So, not all sales positions are created equal, right? If you were selling medical supplies, then your only candidate for a customer are medical offices, right? And hospitals.
Yeah.
That's it. You couldn't come into an office or talk to, a Micah or me and say, hey, what, do you own a home? But that's the beauty about what we do, whether it's mortgage or real estate, everybody is a candidate. So who do you start with? You start with everybody that knows you by name or by face, because if somebody knows you and they don't know that you sell real estate, that's your fault. It's not theirs.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even if you do meet somebody or you know somebody and you tell them you're in real estate, if you don't keep reminding them that you're in real estate, that's your fault. You're not gonna get that when it's time. And so the very first thing you have to do, day one, is marry yourself to a CRM and build a database of everybody that knows you by name or face. You do that through your phone, every contact in your phone. You reach everybody, and there's going to be different levels of contacts in your phone. They're going to be your bros where you can call them, hey, man, what's happening?
Yeah.
I started a career. I need your help. Then there's going to be people you kind of met through business or whatever. Hey, John, it's been a while. I haven't seen you. It was, nice to see you back last May at the wedding, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be people you look at and go, who the hell is, I have no idea who the fuck this is. But you're still going to reach out to them because they may know who you are. And if you send a video to so I don't care how many contacts you have in your phone right now.
I don't even know. Yeah.
Well, you should know. How many?
Let's see. Let's go all the way.
Go into all contacts.
Maybe it's at the bottom. I have almost 1,000 now.
Okay, you got 1,000.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you do is you reach out to everybody in your phone. You'd send a video. You maybe pre-record 3-4 videos for the different types of contacts that are in there, and tell them what you're doing. And so you'd love to have a conversation with them. When you talk to them, you get all their information. So now you've got their phone number, you got their name, but you need their email address and you need their physical address. Because you're going to send out postcards too. You want to break through the noise. Everybody gets email. They get spam. You're getting texts all the time.
Right.
You may not reach them this way, but why not send a mailer regularly, right?
Right.
As long as it has your photo on it, says real estate, doesn't matter what else is in there, right? But you start with that. You start with your phone. Then where do you move? You move to your socials. Now you go to Facebook. Everybody you're connected with in Facebook, you do the exact same thing. You go to LinkedIn, you do the exact same thing. You go to Instagram, you do the same thing. Go to TikTok. Go to all the socials and continue to build that. Then from there, now you can expand your network when you go to events. When you meet somebody, get all their information. Get it into your phone, then get it into your database. Every single time you meet somebody, and if you think about how many people you meet a week, and let's say it's 10 people a week, and you start compounding that over the years, that adds up to a lot, right?
Yeah,
thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands. If you had all those people that you had met and you had a conversation with them, you got all their contact information, and you stayed in touch with them regularly, how much business would you have just by doing the outreach?
Jeez. I mean,
that's how you build the business.
Right.
From day one. That's how you do it. Real estate, mortgage, doesn't matter, same thing. You can go buy leads, you can go do things online, that's all in addition to. You can go and pay for social media, marketing, and do SEO and SEM, and use AI for different. You can do all of that. That just adds to it. But the actual base, the foundation of your business, has to be the people that know you by name or face and people you meet every single day. And you can't be shy about that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a very people-centered, oriented business.
That's right.
So.
That's right. And then you have. There's no way you won't be successful. There's absolutely no way you won't. You have to be absolutely relentless and non-apologetic about it.
Right.
And if somebody's turned off by you, so what? You take them. You take them out of your list.
Yeah.
No big deal, right? So you think about that. So when I started, it was a physical phone book. We didn't have phones with all that, but it was a handwritten address book. grab my parents' address book. So everybody that they knew that knew me growing up, everybody went in there. And that's how I became successful doing this.
Nice.
So there you go. There's your advice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, look, not everybody's successful. You'll find that out very quickly. You'll realize there's not a lot of agents that are really good at what they do. They'll realize that day one when you try to get a hold of an agent who has a listing that your buyer's interested in and they don't call you back. They ignore the message or they don't text you back and you have to call 3 or 4 times. You're like, what the hell? I have a buyer. Like, why are you not? Does the seller know you're not actually calling people back? Or when you send an offer over and then the listing agent doesn't acknowledge that they received your offer and you have to follow up and you're like, did you get my offer? No, where'd you send it? I sent it your email like you said me to. Oh, let me go check. No, I don't see it. Now you got to send it second, third time.
Yeah.
So
I feel that pain.
Yeah, you've done that already, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Or even like a listing I had that it was going to be my first listing. It got canceled because another agent influenced our client.
Yep.
And I'm like, dude.
Yeah. These are the things that you'll come and encounter with. So let's talk a little bit more broadly about real estate right now, because you're starting during a time where there's a lot of changes going on in real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Last year was the culmination of the lawsuits where there was a big NAR, National Association of Realtors, settlement. There were judgments. There are class action lawsuits bringing about lots of change in real estate. One of the big changes that brought about was this idea of the decoupling of commissions, right?
Yeah.
So traditionally it's been where a listing agent would take a listing agreement with a seller, and in that agreement, the seller would agree to some percentage. And let's just use California, on average it's 5%, but then the listing agent would share that commission. If there was a buying agent that came in, they would share that commission with them. So let's say it was 5%, they would give 2.5% of that to the buyer's agent. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Today, that's not how it works. Today, the listing agent does a contract with the seller for their commission only. Then a buyer has to sign an agreement with a buyer's agent for a commission and hope to write an offer where the seller will help out with that commission.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot different than the way it traditionally was, because what was commonly said to buyers was, by agents, was, you don't have to pay for my fee. The seller does. That's typically my services are free.
Yeah,
that's not really the right statement. It never was, because if you're a seller, you're going to look at what you're netting on your offer, right?
Right.
And so you may want a little bit more because you're also paying both sides of the commission. You're paying 5%. You're going to want more for your property. So in essence, the buyer's paying more for it. They're paying for that fee. But now it's separated. So what's been your experience with buyers, with you having buyers sign a buyer agent agreement so far?
Honestly, I've had no issues with it. And from my understanding of the NAR settlement, I don't think, other than making it legal now to have to sign to represent a buyer, I don't think anything's really changed outside of it, other than, honestly, it's helped weed out the agents that don't do that.
Right.
Because now you say they submit an offer and they sign that they viewed the property that day and the BRBC that day too as well. You can kind of flag them and say like, you can't do that.
Right.
But honestly, you just got to be as transparent as possible with your clients. And that's really the name of the game, is communication and transparency with you and whoever you're working with. And I feel like a lot of agents don't do that. And that's actually, from what I was told from a lender I was talking to about real estate agents and even loan officers, is communication's the number one complaint from consumers that they don't like.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because it's a person
job.
business.
Yeah.
But honestly, my experience from doing it, I've had no issues.
Okay.
As long as you explain it through, like, here's the contract. This is what it means.
This is my fee.
Yeah, exactly. And this is how long it's going to be. They have no issues.
Have you had any issue on the offer side of it where you've written an offer and asked for whatever that fee is? Let's say it's 2.5%, and then the seller refuses to pay the 2.5%.
I haven't ran into that yet.
Okay.
But, I mean, it will probably sway agents away if they don't compensate for the buyer's agent. because that's usually been the practice of real estate from listing agent to buyer's agent.
Yeah, well, it is happening a lot. It is happening where sellers say, no, I'm not going to pay a full 2.5%, or I'm going to pay 1%, or I'm going to pay 1.5%, or especially as you get into the higher priced homes. You know, you get into a $3, $4, $5 million home, and then the seller says, I'm not paying that. You know, I'll pay 1.5%. Now you got to go back to your buyer and say, hey, we signed this agreement for 2.5%. When the reality is that then they would pay you directly the other 1%, right? Or you drop your fee,
or like we negotiate that with the listing agent and with the seller.
Right, but if there are sellers, and I'm telling you just personal experience,
okay, there
are sellers that will just not do it for whatever reason. They just say, no, I'm not paying more than that, even though you may offer more money for the say, well, look, we'll pay you a higher purchase price to compensate you for it. There are certain sellers that just won't get around that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. So some of that's happening. So along with that, with that change, there's been this all this talk about and changes taking place with clear cooperation. So clear cooperation was put in place years back. That's basically said when you take a listing, when you have a new home that you've taken a listing agreement on, that you have to put that on the MLS within, I believe it's 24 hours. And then what happens from there when you get it on the MLS is it syndicates out to all the major websites,
right,
like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, Homes.com, et cetera, right? And that's where most of the buyers are looking. So when you're working with a buyer, they're most definitely, they've chosen one, most of them Zillow, to go looking themselves, right?
Right, yeah.
And they set up an account and they set up their notifications and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Like 98% of buyers are doing that. And they're seeing these listings as soon as you see them. There's no delay.
Exactly.
But with the fighting of clear cooperation, for example, Compass has said we're going to have our exclusive listings. They're only going to be on the Compass website. You won't find them anywhere else. Come to us. And obviously the idea behind this is that now they have a chance of having an agent from Compass represent the buyer and the seller more so than an agent from Compass representing the seller and then some other agent like you coming in representing the buyer. So they get half the commission, right? And so from the outside looking in, it's pretty obvious to us. It's a money grab, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what their argument is. Their argument is sellers should have a choice whether they want to be on the MLS or not, and if they want it to be publicly seen. Now, if it's on their site, it's publicly seen anyway. And there's always been the ability to have it an exclusive listing and have it avoid being syndicated out. It's always been there. But now this is front and center. And Zillow, just a few weeks ago, and Redfin both came out and said, if you don't put your listing on the MLS within that 24 hours, so it shows up on our sites, that listing will be forever banned from being on our site. So your listing, while you're the agent with that listing, you will never, it'll be tagged and you will never be able to put that on. And the only way that seller then can get a second shot at getting on Zillow and having a broader audience see their listing is to hire another broker.
Wow. I didn't hear the part where they would ban it outright. If they didn't do it. Wow.
Yep.
That's
outright.
Crazy.
That's what's happened. And so a lot of shakeup right now, and it's happening right now. One of the other things happening is that the MLS is finally, the NAR controlled MLSs have finally agreed to remove the, what do they call it? The commingling requirement. The requirement that you can't commingle agent listings with other listings. So in the past, it's been where if you went to, let's say, Zillow and you wanted to see listings by a builder directly that didn't have real estate agent representing them, or a for sale by owner that didn't have a real estate agent, you have to click to a whole different tab with a different feed to find those. Well, now they're saying we're going to remove that, and now they can all be on one site to make it a level playing field. So a lot of changes happening in real estate literally right now as you're, getting your foothold, as you're learning.
Yeah.
So the good news is that, someone like you will come in, you won't have this legacy opinion of what's happened. And because there's a lot of arguments and infighting going on online.
Right.
And some saying, hey, this is the way it should be. Some saying, no, it isn't. That's not fair. You always get a kind of a 50-50 split there, but you're coming in fresh and going, shoot, this hasn't even affected me at all because I'm not even paying attention to it. You didn't know the way it was. And to some degree, that's a benefit to you and your clients.
Right. Honestly, I don't even know how to feel about that. I know about Compass and what's going on with them. I mean, it's like any other business. They're trying to draw more attention towards their site. So then people are like, oh, I'm going to use Compass.
Yeah.
Only and no other agency. Like, honestly, I don't know why Zillow and all the MLS systems are pushing back on that. But, I mean, they're also trying to get the business too. And so they're just coming out and saying, you know what? No, we need to share the business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way I think about it is this: if I'm selling my property, and there are definitely certain people that want privacy. Okay, you're in law enforcement, you're in politics, you're high profile, something like that.
True.
You may want to have just a private listing. Nobody knows who you are. You have to contact that agent to get that listing. You don't want your neighbors to know. You don't want anybody to know that you're selling your property. It's a divorce, a high profile divorce. Totally get that. Yeah. Absolutely. Very small minority of sellers that are like that. They exist, but it's a minority. So if I think about, I'm going to sell a property, I want as many eyeballs on that property as possible, right?
Right.
Because the more people I have interest in my property, the more attention it gets. And how do you get the highest price per property? Through competition. So if you write an offer on my property and you fall in love with it and your wife wants it and you wants it no matter what because she loves it and it's the right neighborhood, et cetera, and then Micah comes in and his wife falls in love with it and she writes the offer, there's going to be a bidding war, right?
Yeah.
But if I don't have enough exposure that when Micah's wife is out there, sorry, Micah, when his wife is out there looking on Zillow, it doesn't show up. She's never going to know. So what does she have to do? She's got to go to all the different websites. She's got to go to Zillow. She got to go to Compass. Then she has to go to, Berkshire Hathaway. Like, it takes what's been really consumer friendly and rolled it back a couple decades. That's my opinion.
No, I feel that, and it's. I feel like it's. Just keep everything just centered in one place to make it easier.
It would be.
For the end consumer.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Versus having to check all these different sites for all these different properties. Why not just keep it all, which is why the MLS exists.
Yeah. And so agents will still be able to look at these on the MLS when they put them there. But they won't show up on the consumer-related sites. So this is really the way it used to be a long time ago. Even when they would publish an MLS book, a book of listings. It was for, your board of realtors would publish this, and you would get this book on every Friday, and then you have to flip through it and find and all that sort of thing. But you could only find those listings through an agent. And so it's kind of rolling the clocks way back to that as opposed to what's become very consumer friendly, which is, I'm sure you have a Zillow account. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I have one. And it doesn't matter which one, homes.com. I have multiples.
Exactly.
But I could log on at any point and see, there's a new listing in my neighborhood. I wonder what it's listed for, right? And you have instant gratification in knowing, or it automatically notifies me. We're moving further away from that with all these new things happening right now. And so really Compass is leading the charge on this. And in my opinion, their arguments are very weak, but their arguments are their arguments anyway. And we'll see where it ends up. All right. Lots of flux right now.
And I feel like just make it easier for the end consumer, your client. Like, make it as easy as possible. I remember when I was working with Shay, you're working with the city all the time. And to be honest, it depends on which city, but to be honest, they never do their job.
Yep.
And so whenever I'd go into planning or the building department, I have to do their job for them.
Yeah.
I had to calculate all the costs and show a spreadsheet along with submitting the building permit and all the plans, to explain it for them. Like, this is why it makes sense. So then they don't have any reason to give any pushback.
Yeah.
You almost have to do that with the client so that they don't have to be like, oh, this is so much work. Why do I have to keep doing this? Unless they're super motivated.
Right.
Which they're only super motivated if it happens to them in that immediate time.
That moment.
So
yep.
I wish there was like a platform out there that's able to just boom and just. But now you have,
and that's the way it's been until now.
Right.
Until now. So we'll see where this whole thing ends up. We're really in the thick of it right now. If you were to talk to somebody that's just starting out, like just thinking about, I'd like to get into real estate, what advice would you give them on taking first steps?
I would say, why did you choose real estate? Like, why real estate? And then a part of that, like, what about real estate interests you? I'll tell them it's very broad. It's very general. There's so much about real estate outside of just being in sales or resales. What about real estate drew your attention? And kind of like, what's your big purpose that you want to serve? Because I talk to a lot of people wanting to be an agent. I'm like, okay, why do you want to be an agent? Whether that's actually through my DMs I've been getting, or just friends that reach out to me like, how are you doing it? And I told them, like, look, it actually took a lot of time for me to do this and get into it. It's not an easy adjustment going from a 9-to-5 salary position to commission only.
Yeah.
You got to go in knowing that you're not going to make anything for months, maybe at least 6 months.
At least.
It could be a year. It could be maybe a year and a half. Just expect that going in.
That's right.
And people don't, like, social media only shares the wins. They don't share the struggle. And I like how we're in the same mastermind group, because the call with Wes Watson actually intrigued me. And I like how he's like, you know what? You got to be as vulnerable as you can.
Yeah.
Because then that's how you're able to relate to people out there, to show them what's really true versus, oh, this is my girlfriend. It's sunshines and rainbows all the time.
Yeah.
Which it really isn't.
Yep.
If you're in a relationship, that's not true.
That's right. That's right. So that's right. And I think that's really important for people to understand that, you know, if you're looking at social media, it does, you know, people talk about their wins and very few talk about their losses or what they have gone through, the struggles. And so setting the expectations appropriately is important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think storytelling is a great thing too. I just started doing that, telling them like it wasn't easy getting down here. Like it took me time. Like I took all my savings. I invested into myself, into this mastermind, into a new business. Like there's a lot of steps that I had to think about just to get where I'm at today.
That's right. You know, those are big investments. You know, you're talking about a mastermind that we're both part of. It's a creator mastermind.
Yeah.
And actually one of the catalysts to me starting this podcast and hiring Micah, who's with me. And so it's been about a year that I've been in it, but so much you can get out of it. But it is a big investment. There's a big dollar investment you did in that. You invested in yourself. And so these are some of the things that people don't talk about. It's like, could you have figured it out on your own? Yeah, but is it worth the expense so that you could shorten that timeline and get to the results a lot quicker? Absolutely. And so investing in yourself is really important. The last subject I want to talk about is what do you think about people that want to buy a home without a real estate agent or sell their home for sale by owner?
I mean, they're more than happy to do it. I would say it's probably going to be a person that works a 9-to-5. They have a day job. Do they know how real estate works? How the transaction works? Do they have the right forms? Do they know how to submit an offer? Do they know what to do once they get into escrow? Kind of ask them these questions. Okay, based off your response, do you feel comfortable and confident doing that yourself while working a 9-to-5? It's just like going to the dentist and you ask them, I'm just going to work on my own teeth. But that's why the dentist is there, so they can work and clean your teeth or remove the cavity if they find it and diagnose that. It's really similar with being an agent. That is your 9-to-5. You're the professional. And now how do you tell that to your client and future clients that you're more than happy to work 2 jobs if you want to, but I know you have a family, you have your own life, you have your job. Now let me take the stress and burden off of you so that I can help achieve the goals that you want after you leave here today. That's what I would tell them.
Do you think that AI, as quickly as it's growing, is going to affect the ability for people to be able to do that on their own?
I mean, AI is rapidly changing. I mean, I use it every day with my business to make sure it's like double checking what I'm saying, sending emails out, or even doing calculations. It's insane.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I mean, everyone talks about how AI is going to take everyone's jobs, but the AI is never really going to take the people aspect version face to face away from what I'm seeing and foreseeing. And after talking to all these professionals that are incorporating AI into their business, and now we're doing it too, your job's not going to be taken if you know how to utilize it with your job.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting.
I think that, with AI, probably the biggest insulating factor that we have is licensing, because to perform the jobs that only a licensee is allowed to do by law, whether it be for mortgage origination or real estate agency, you got to be a person, right? But beyond that, I don't know. AI might be able to do this much better. And we talk about, face to face, but we're at the very beginning of where robots are, the sci-fi films that we see where it seems like, that's the direction we're headed, right? And maybe we won't be able to tell the difference. Possibly not in my lifetime, probably in your lifetime.
I mean, once it gets to that, we'll see how the tides have changed,
Yeah.
But I still think in this moment in time, like as AI is evolving, I think it's the people that come out of being able to utilize it are going to be on top and winning.
I totally agree with you there. Embracing it and utilizing it to make to make what you do better is absolutely a necessity. You can't ignore it.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. Well, awesome, man. Well, Tristan, it's been great having you. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they're interested in, buying or selling some real estate, how can they reach you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me, realtor.tmg on Instagram, TikTok, you name it. And then we even have a company account at West Coast Property Bros as our tag on on Instagram. We're still building out the website, so stay tuned.
And what about a phone number?
My phone number, 408-893-4588.
Perfect.
Got me there.
Perfect. All right. Well, Tristan, thanks for coming today. Guys, that was another edition of The Blueprint. If you liked what you heard, if you got some value out of it, please like, share, follow, subscribe, do all those things. They really help. And we'll see you next time on The Blueprint.